Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? Well, the answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. When I started using Anchor to do my podcast, it was so extremely easy that I haven't even bothered to look for another app to use. I love this app. It's the only one I deal with, the only one I even recommend, period. I recommend you get on there ASAP. If you want to start a podcast, this is definitely the place to go. It's easy. You can drive around and record. You can sit in your basement and record. You can do it anywhere. It's fantastic. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start, anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Adam Rich from the Really Rich Podcast. And today I wanted to talk to you about why gratitude is so important. Why it plays such a huge factor in anybody's success or happiness, period. Even if you want, everyone judges success based on what they believe it is. Now, granted, when you look at the kind of shit that's being pushed on TV, it's usually success is always mentioned around making money or having high status, having high popularity or fame or whatever. And we've talked about this many times. It has nothing to do with success. Everyone defines it themselves. If your goal in life is to make $40,000 a year and do a lot of charity work and help others, or get into teaching or running a nonprofit organization of some kind, or just being a stay-at-home mom. If your definition of success is being a stay-at-home mom while your husband, goes out and works and pays the bills and stuff, but you're at home with your kid every day, if that is your goal, is to be a stay-at-home mom with your children, and you do it, that is success. That's the definition of success, is whenever you set some kind of a goal for yourself, not whatever the fucking media thinks it is, or whatever people on MTV thinks it is, or celebrities think it is. You define it for yourself. If you set a goal for yourself and you accomplish it, that is the definition of success. When you have a task, an accomplishment, or a goal, something that needs to be accomplished, and you accomplish it, that's success. But that being said, I want to tell you why gratitude is so important in this dynamic. Because when you live grateful for what you have, when you appreciate not only, what items may be in your life, what kind of money you have, or what kind of job you have, or any of that, not just being grateful for those, but I'm talking down to you being grateful for who the fuck your parents were, being grateful for what setting you grew up in, meaning what time period, what era, what country you grew up in. Like, dude, people don't realize that the time period we live in right now, the time period of 2019, anywhere in the world, but especially in America, because that's the only one I can speak on thoroughly from my experience living here, but even just the time period, if you're from anywhere in the world, just think about what fucking year it is and what technology is available and what you can accomplish in today's world as opposed to like 1,000 years ago. It's insane when you actually give credit to the time period that you grew up in. Like, think of all the things that you do in a day. When you wake up, all the normal, regular shit that you do in a day. And think about where that was 1,000 years ago. 100 years ago. Like, you grow up in an incredible fucking time. In order for you to take a shower, you walk into your bathroom, you pop your shower on, you let it warm up for a minute, you get in, you soap yourself up, you clean off, you get out. Dude, that shit didn't exist like 400 years ago, like 200 years ago. I don't know exactly when the first shower hit the market, but I have a feeling it was less than 200 years ago. Or like the way we know it. Like think about 1,000, dude, back in the year 1200, you think anyone was going in there and just like lifting a handle and then shower, like water, hot, nice warm water, shot out. They had fucking, Old Spice or some kind of body wash to throw on, lather themselves up. No, that didn't happen. They basically had to go find a river or a pond. I mean, maybe 100 years ago they had something like coming out of the walls. I don't fucking know. I probably should have done some research before I did this podcast. But the point is, like 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, that did not happen. You had to like find a pool of water to get into. And you didn't have soap. You didn't have like antibacterial shit. You just went in there, you got into whatever temperature water it was, and you got into a grimy lake, and you cleaned yourself off, basically. And then it as good as you could. And then you hoped for the best. And sometimes you'd go days, weeks, months without a fucking good shower. You think people that lived in the desert, that lived in like really, really hot areas around the world, you think that they had showers to just jump into to clean themselves off? No, they barely even had water to get into. Like there's a lot of fucking skin diseases and like leprosy and all kinds of just nasty germ like plagues that would wipe out so many people. And now all you have to, you can wake up every day and just jump in the shower. Think about your bed that you lay on. Think of how nice and cozy it is, and your blankets and your pillows. Where the hell was that 1,000 years ago, 2,000, 5,000 years ago? The time period we grow, the internet, the telephone, the fact that you can even listen to this right now, that didn't happen like 20 years ago. There was no podcasting. Like, it's insane the things that we have at our disposal in 2019 to be able to do all the things that we do and watch all the shows that we want, with all the different forms of entertainment. Like, you basically had to go play with sticks and rocks and shit back in, like, for entertainment for most of time. And the things that we have that we take for granted, that's why I have such gratitude, dude. Because it's not even just about the city you grew up in, the color you are, the parents you had, the age you are, the height you are, the shape, any of that. It's not about any of that shit. Think about even just the time period alone that you grow up in. Like, it's extraordinary, excuse me, the benefit that you have over the majority of human history. Just the time period alone is worth waking up every day and being extraordinarily grateful. To know that if you want food, you can fucking sit in your house and order a pizza if you want. You don't even have to leave. You can drive a block away to go to the nearest McDonald's or Starbucks or, like, dude, anything that you fucking want. Nowadays, especially through Amazon, almost anything you want can be delivered right to your doorstep. You don't have a car, you want to ride somewhere? Call Uber. They'll come to your house. You want tacos and you don't have none of the shit at your house to make it? Go a block over to go to Taco Bell or Del Taco or whatever other fucking taco places in your area. Like, there is so much shit at your disposal. You wake up and have a thought and you can almost make it happen within the next hour. Like, that's insane to me. Even the fact that you have Tinder now for people that were... Dude, when I was growing up, if you said that you were going to go on online dating, people thought you were a fucking loser. Like, when I was 20, that's 16 years ago. When I was 20 years old, the thought of going on, like, eHarmony or Match.com or whatever singles website there was, like, that was when 16 years ago, dude. When I was 20, I remember thinking, that's for losers. I'll never use anything like that. That's crazy. Why on earth would I ever... that just shows that you have no social skills if you have to go online to find somebody compatible. That's what it was. That's what the common taboo, the stigma over online dating was back then. Now, that's like the only place you meet people is online. Online dating is like the only way to go about finding somebody to date now. It's so weird. Like, times change so quickly. 16 years ago, dude. If you're old enough to drive, then you're old enough to where online dating was horrible. It was considered for the weakest of the weak, you know, when it comes to the dating pool. And now that's all you do. I remember if you wanted, if a new movie came out, like, to be able to rent or whatever, you had to actually get your sorry ass into a car, drive to Blockbuster, hope that it wasn't already sold out, and then you had to stand in line, pay your $3, $4, whatever it was. You only had it for a couple days, and then you had to return that shit. Now you have on demand. You can rent shit right from your home. You don't even have to get off the couch. You can just rent shit. Still costs, you know, whatever. And you have it for 24 to 48 hours or whatever. You watch it. It's done. And even back then when there was like VCRs, you had to actually, if you didn't rewind the fucking tape when you returned it, which you don't do that with DVDs and Netflix and all that, so you probably, some of you may be young enough, you might not have any fucking clue what I'm talking about. This might be listened to 40 years from now, and then people are going to be like, what the hell is he talking about, VCR? Look that shit up. I'm telling you, you had to rewind. It was like a little cassette tape, and and some of you might not even have a clue what that is either. But if you rented a movie, it had this tape in there, and it would just like, you know, the tape would spin and it would play whatever image was on that tape or whatever, and it would play consistently until the whole movie was done or whatever. Well, when the movie was done, you went from the start of the tape to the end of the tape. So they wanted you to actually rewind the tape and go back to the beginning before you turned it in. And if you didn't, you'd get charged. You'd actually get charged towards your next rental. Now you sit there on your couch, you hit a couple buttons, you're watching the movie, in 2 to 3 hours it's over with, and you're done with it. You move on with your life. There's no driving to the store to have to go find a movie and hope that it's there, and if it's not there, then you got to look around the whole fucking store to figure out which other movie you'd like to see instead. Because you're already out now. I mean, you might as well get a movie now. You're already here. You're already at the Blockbuster joint. Now Blockbuster's gone. Blockbuster doesn't exist. Most of you listening probably don't even know what Blockbuster is. That's how bad. That's how quickly times change, dude. And to think that just something little like that, like I remember that being an exciting event on Friday nights was to go drive to Blockbuster to find a movie or a video game to rent for a few days and then return it in a couple days later or whatever. That was that was exciting. Now you can rent video games online. You can rent movies online. You can, like, if through Netflix, half the time, I remember Friday nights, like, you'd sit in front of your TV to watch TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. TGIF, all the shows that were on, fuck, I don't even remember what channel it was. It was either ABC or CBS or something, NBC, I don't remember which one it was. But anyway, you'd sit there and you'd watch shows from like 8 o'clock to 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every night, or every Friday night. And that was a great thing to do. Now it's like kids want to go out Friday night. They don't want to be sitting at the house. Or if they are, they want to be sitting there playing video games or online chatting with friends or something. It's rare, I think, for teenage kids to want to just sit around on a Friday night or a Saturday night or whatever just watching TV. I think they want to be involved in doing some kind of an event, whereas before it was pretty standard. It was pretty normal shit. You'd stay in the house. Like if you're a kid that was under 16, 17 years old or whatever, you'd stay in the house, watch the TV on Friday night. It would end. You'd be basically ready for bed after it's over. You'd wake up early in the morning and watch Saturday morning cartoons. Your ass stayed home Friday nights and Saturday mornings. Now kids always want to be out doing something or looking for something to do, even if it's at their own home. Like, times just change so quickly. And to live in this world, in this day and age, in this time period, and not feel some sense of gratitude towards all the amenities, commodities, all the other itties that seem to help your life. Like, it's just crazy how many people don't even think about that stuff. They don't appreciate it. Like, the fact that you can literally talk to anyone in the world at any time through a little device next to your ear is crazy if you were born before 1990. Like, it's obviously believable because we've been doing it for a while now. But the point is, I remember when every single phone call you made had to be from your own home, and you had to hope that your friend or whoever the hell you're calling was actually at home. And the phone was it's called a landline. It attached to a wire in your house, and it stayed on the wall or on a table or whatever, and you had to be by the phone if you wanted to have a phone call. You couldn't drive somewhere in your car and talk to somebody on the phone. You couldn't record a podcast or a YouTube video while you were driving. You couldn't do a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I remember when the pager first came around, and if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and you weren't home, the pager was the next best option. To have a pager where somebody could send a message to that number, you'd receive the message wherever you were, but you couldn't just call, you couldn't just answer the pager. The pager was just to let you know somebody was looking for you. Then you had to go find a payphone or go to somebody's house to make the phone call and then hope that they were still by their phone. So it's amazing that all the different wonderful things that you have at your disposal now. Like, dude, I don't know when air conditioning was invented or heating and cooling and all that shit was invented. But I'll tell you this much, before it was invented, that was a rough time. If it was cold outside, it was cold in your damn house. Not as cold. Insulation was so much more critical and important back then when you didn't have a source of heat or a source of air conditioning in your house. Like, even the invention of a floor fan had to have been phenomenal back when it first came out. To be able to sit in 85-degree heat and then have a fan blowing at you was so much better than to just sit in an 85-degree heat, wasn't it? So just look around you at the amazing things. Dude, 200 years ago, there was no fucking cars. There was no planes. I don't think there was any trains 200 years ago, like maybe 150-ish. But dude, it was horseback or walking. And we live in this time where it's like, if your internet's not working fast enough, you're pissed off. Or, you know, if you didn't DVR your show and you just happen to miss half of it, you're upset. The fact that you even have a fucking DVR at all. Like, do you know how many times people would be out? I remember this shit, dude. Back in the 80s, early 90s, people would be out and they'd say, oh no, it's almost 8 o'clock or it's almost 9 o'clock, whatever the fuck. Seinfeld's on, or Seinfeld's coming on, or Friends is coming on. I need to make sure I get home so I don't miss it. Most people didn't record the shows to a VCR back then, or a VHS tape. Most people didn't do that. Most people had to they'd be out somewhere and it would be a certain time and they'd be like, oh, I got to get home. Sorry, my show's coming on. Now you just DVR it. You watch it whenever. Shit, Netflix, sometimes, a lot of the shows, they just push out the whole season at once. You can binge watch the shit in one day and be done with it. You can watch an entire season in one day and be done with it. Think of all the time you save. I mean, I remember being in elementary school. This one's one of my favorites, and I'm going to cut it here because I don't have a lot of time today, but I just wanted to do something, put something out about gratitude because this shit is so important and so many people are missing it. So many people are not grateful. But one of my favorites, and I'll end it with this, is when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, I remember being in math class. And I'm not trying to brag, but I was always decent at math. It always came a little bit easier to me, but I still needed calculators. You know, I didn't like doing all the work and all that stuff, but I knew how to do it if I needed to. Well, my teachers, I would get pissed off because my teachers wanted me to show the work, and I knew how to do the work, but I could get it done so much quicker and save me time if I just knocked out the right answer and moved on. Well, they didn't like that. They wanted you to show the work, and their excuse for this now, for those of us who are too young to remember this, their excuse was, you're not always going to have a calculator with you. You need to know how to figure this kind of math out. Well, joke's on you, because there's a fucking calculator in every damn cell phone, computer, laptop, like you name it, there's a damn computer, or there's a calculator on it. An iPad. I mean, dude, you can't go anywhere without a calculator. And they said, we need you to show all the extra work. So therefore, you had to do all this. Not only did you have to do the extra work, but it took extra time. To me, time has always been critical. It's always been fascinating to me. Time comes and goes. You can't get it back. So what you do with your time is extremely important. And the older you get, the more you realize this, and then you realize how much of your time you've wasted doing shit that doesn't matter. And so I try to capitalize every second I can as efficiently, as beneficially as I possibly can. Now, do I waste some? Of course. I'm a human being. I waste some. Sometimes I don't mean to. I waste it, and then I realize later, I'm like, fuck, I could have did this, this, and this. It would have saved me so much more time. But I think about that kind of stuff because you don't get time back. When you wake up in the morning, if say you wake up at 6, 7 in the morning, whatever, and the sun's coming up, you only have so much time in that day before the sun goes back down. So if you need to get shit done in the daylight, you better do it as quickly as you can or as much as you can in the daylight, because when it gets night time, you can't be doing all that stuff outside. You can't be doing yard work at 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? You can't be mowing your lawn or snow blowing the driveway at 3 in the morning. Now, could you? Yeah, you could get a flashlight out there and do it, but you're going to piss everyone off because a lot of people are sleeping at that time. So my point is, time goes very quickly. Once it's gone, you don't get it back. When today is over, it will never be here again. You can think about it. You can talk about it. You can record shit that you're doing today, but you're never going to get today back. Think about that. It's fucking incredibly important if you don't want to waste your damn life. We all get older. We all start to break down at some point. So the point that I'm saying is, when you have the moments, when you have the minute, when you have the day, try to make it as useful as you can. Try to do everything that you can with that day, because when that day's gone, it's not coming back. You are now a day older. You are now closer to death. Every single day that the second you're born, you're now working towards death. Now, I don't like to look at it like that. It's a very bleak and, dark image. Obviously, in my opinion, you make good with what you can in your life. But the point is, the time's not coming back. So you're getting one day closer to death every single day. Now, whenever that is, it could be 100 years from now. It could be 5 minutes from now. We don't know. What I do know, though, is that when you sit around and do nothing and you just complain about how unfair life is and how you wish it was and how you wish things were different and all that, you can wish all day, you can cry about it all day, you can complain about it all day. But life is the way it is. Nobody's changing it for you. Nobody's coming in, rushing in to rescue you and make it better for you. Your life is what it is. Even if you think that your life has been so totally unfair and everyone's been out to get you and everyone's been holding you back and making it to where it's so hard for you to succeed, say you're right. Say that's true. Depending on the situation, I don't believe that in most cases. In certain cases, maybe. But let's say it's true. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit and complain and hope that it gets better? Or are you going to go out and try to adapt to your situation? Learn what it is that you have going on in your situation and adapt to that. Like me, I have this job that I've been at for almost 15 years in January, right? The place itself, excuse me, sorry, I need to get some water. The place itself has not gotten much better since I've hired in, right? It's progressively, things have gotten a little worse for the employee, and a lot of people are complaining. A lot of people don't like it there, but people will go in there every single day and they'll complain about the situation. They'll complain about the company being the way it is. They'll complain and complain and complain. And the reality is, until things change on their end up front, like where the higher ups are getting all the benefits, until something changes on their end, they're not going to change what's going on our end. So either, I said this to a coworker of mine on Friday. I said, we can come into work every day and complain and cry and bitch and think that somehow complaining to the world is going to make it better, or you can actively do something about your situation. Either go back to school, try to get a degree and get out of there, start your own business, save some money and live a little more humbly so you can get yourself out of that situation and go somewhere else. You have to do something about it. It's not going to just change because you complain every day. And complaining every day just makes you angry and bitter and sad and you're not happy. So instead of you living like that, instead of you living angry and upset and complaining and worrying about how this is and thinking, we just got another 20 years left or 30 years left of doing this or whatever, if you don't like it, then I don't recommend just quitting and having nothing. I mean, obviously be responsible with your bills, your money, your health, all that. but do something in the meantime. That's the biggest reason why it pushed me to start my podcast. I've been wanting for years to somehow help and affect other people's lives in a positive way. I never did shit about it because I had my job that I had and it was paying the bills, and I just went through the motions day after day after day until eventually I had enough. And I said, the only way I'm ever going to get out of here is either I work for another fucking 20 years or whatever and retire, or I start actively working on getting myself out of here, save some money, put some money away so that way I can go all in on another career when I save enough money. But I also have a wife and a daughter, a 10-month-old daughter. So I can't just quit my job and not have benefits, not have health insurance and all that stuff, not have a source of income coming in. I have other people that I need to be responsible to. So instead of crying and complaining every day about my situation, about my job, and about how I wish it was better and I wish things would change, I don't do that. I will appease the people around. Like, when people are complaining around me, I don't just tell them stop complaining. I try to be there for them. I try to reason with them and level with them and help them. However, it's hard when you got to listen to it every day from all sides. It's the same complaints. And every day I've tried, not every day, but many times I have tried to help these people and say, look, dude, you're good at this. This is what you're good at. You're very good at doing this. I've watched you be very good at doing this. Why don't you try to turn that into a career? Why don't you slowly work on getting yourself out of here? Put a little bit of time, a little bit of money, a little bit of effort into whatever you like doing, whatever kind of other job you could be doing. Put some time and effort into that. And instead of free time, like watching shows and fucking looking at YouTube and shit all the time, do something about your situation. You live in an incredible time where everything is so much easier and more capable now than ever before. The internet alone allows you to start up and run damn near any kind of business you could think of. So do that. And it doesn't have to be by tomorrow. It doesn't have to be by next week. It doesn't have to be by next month or next year. Listen, I started this shit over around a year and a half ago, like a year and 3 months ago-ish, something like that, right? I have zero intention of it. It'd be awesome if it just all of a sudden boomed and I had millions of people listening and all that shit and I could just quit my job tomorrow. But it hasn't happened. And so instead of complaining that it hasn't happened, I just keep diligently plugging away, making podcast after podcast after podcast, and hoping that one day it gets big enough. I'm writing a book also. I'm actually in the process of writing a couple of them, but I'm more focused on one right now. But I'm slowly doing things about my situation. Plus, I'm raising a kid, and I have my wife. Like, I have to balance my time. I have to go to my job 40 hours a week. Then I have to, at minimum, actually more than that minimum, it's like 42 and a half minimum. But anyway, that being said, I go to my job, I come home, I have a family to take care of, and then I also work on a podcast, and I also have a house to take care of, and I also have a family to go out and enjoy life with and stuff. So it's not easy. I know it's not. But you have to work at it. And even when things are tough and they don't look good, you have to keep working at it, because eventually all that hard work pays off. I look at it like an athlete. An athlete works their ass off from the time they're like 3 or 5 or whatever, all the way up until they're in their early to mid 20s before they finally get drafted and paid for their effort. You have to, in order for an athlete to get paid for their effort, they have to literally work for 15 to 20 years hard every day at their craft for free before they finally reap the rewards of it. So think like an athlete. Work your ass off, but make sure it's what you like, because if you like it, then you don't care if you're working at it. If you hate it, then you care if you're working at it. So what I recommend for everybody on the fucking planet is find out what it is that you like, what you just love to do anyway, that you do all the time for free. Every chance you get, you do it for free if you can, or you would even pay to do it if you had to. And then try to do that all the time. Every chance you get, practice it, get better at it, and then try to figure out a way to monetize that. And if you have any questions on how to monetize it, please call me. I feel like I can answer that question for any type of a profession ever. It's hard to get into over the course of a podcast to tell every single type of profession to tell every single type of profession on how to go about monetizing it. It's not one way for every profession. So please, if you have any questions on how to make money doing what you love doing, please call me. Find me on Twitter, on Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, LinkedIn, anywhere. Find me anywhere. And through the Anchor app podcast, or through the Anchor app, you can actually leave me voice messages, leave me your number, and I can call you back and we can have a discussion. I'd love to do that. So please do that. But if not, you can find me on Instagram at Really Rich Podcast, Twitter, Really Rich Adam, Snapchat and YouTube is Really Rich is the channel, and LinkedIn. Please find me on LinkedIn. It's Adam Rich, and you'll see me, founder and host of Really Rich Podcast. So that's all the time I got today, guys. I love you so much, and I thank you for listening. Please be grateful for every moment that you have. Be grateful for the items that you can enjoy in your life, and think about every item that you look at today, if you could. I mean, obviously it's very difficult to do this with everything, but please, just everything that you do today, try to think about where this technology was 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. And then please tell me you don't feel grateful for all the wonderful shit that you can enjoy today. A house with electricity, or an apartment, whatever, wherever you live, somewhere with electricity, a car to drive, a job to go to, fast food and grocery stores everywhere in case you're hungry, the internet and Amazon to deliver everything that you could possibly imagine in your doorstep by the next fucking day. Just appreciate what time we live in. It's incredible, dude. It's so incredible. And I wish everyone just understood how important and awesome all of this shit is. I love you guys, and I thank you so much for listening. I'll see you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.